Good morning, welcome back to normal content. I know I've been stuck in New Engine November, but it's finally come to end and we'll be on to our normal content soon. And I'm sure I'll start and finish all of the projects I've started. He's right behind me, isn't he? I'm sure that you're more than ready for me to work on my longer term projects, but during New Engine November, which you should also go check out that if you haven't, I created a game concept that I actually had a ton of fun with. So it looks like we're jumping into another brand new project. Yippee! During week 2 of New Engine November, I was trying out Construct 3 when I hit gold with the game idea. I made a simple rage platformer game that was a ton of fun, and I felt like it really had a ton of potential. The gameplay revolved around climbing through the level with only being able to launch yourself around like a slingshot, and I really wanted to continue this game, but unfortunately it was made in Construct. And if you've watched some of my New Engine November stuff, then you'll know that I have some problems with Construct. So, reporting it to Unity. Yay! Do you know what that means? We're starting from scratch. One might get discouraged by completely restarting your game, but not I. You see, the way that I see game dev is that progress is like a curve, with the vertical axis being the enjoyment you get from game dev and the horizontal axis being the progress or time spent in a game. And you see here, at the beginning, your enjoyment goes up quite a bit as you get the main mechanics in, but as you keep working on smaller and more detail-oriented stuff, the enjoyment you get gets smaller and smaller. And that's why it's so easy to start a new project and really hard to finish one. But yeah, I'm totally immune to that. Anyways, restarting this game actually wasn't that bad. First, I started up by setting up a rule palette and getting the frog in there. One script later, and you could sling this frog around. A big part of making this game feel good is adjusting the physics settings, so that way everything feels snappy and good. The entire game, you're going to interact with this frog, so might as well make the player enjoy it. Some of the changes that I made were I made the target that you draw back to launch the player show up anywhere on the screen, so that way you could quickly swipe and launch the player. I also put some temporary visuals in there for it, but I actually didn't think it looked that bad. But anyways, I really did spend a lot of time making it feel good, but eventually I was super happy with it. Now it's time for the camera movement. And one might just say this is super easy, but there's more than meets the eye. Let's use Geometry Dash as an example for say. When you jump in Geometry Dash, does the whole camera move? No, that would be very jarring. But when you hit the top of the screen, you don't just go off the top. No, of course, Dumbo, it moves with you. But wait, it doesn't move when you jump normally. This is called camera dead zones, or I'm sure there's another name for it, but this is what I'm calling it, where the player can move as much as he'd like inside this box. But the second he goes out of it, then the camera moves towards him. This makes such a smoother camera movement, and it prevents it from seeming jarring. Plus, with this, I can make the camera focus above you, so you can always see the obstacles you're about to encounter. After the camera was feeling great, I was ready to start moving on to the obstacles. First up from the original game was the moving platform, and you'll never guess what happened. Centuries have came and gone. Scholars have studied for this rare occurrence. Years turn on and the earth remains, until one day, when JPEG actually uses the math you learned in school in real life. The way that I set up the movement for these platforms was just a sine wave to make it all smooth. So here's this to all the people saying you'll never use that math in your real life. Anyways, I got those all working great, so now we have our last major mechanic to take care of. And that was the bouncing mushroom. And these were hard. I had to delicately balance all of its settings so it always felt just right, and the player never felt like the mushrooms were a guessing game. After a ton of trial and error, I got it to a point where I could say, good enough, and I moved on for now. I played around with a couple of new ways that I could animate the frog with the drawings I had, but I ended up not figuring anything out, so I just resorted back to the same system that was in the original game. Now that I had all the mechanics in, let's make an interesting level. I spent a lot of time on this, and I tried to get a basic overview of a bunch of the platforming puzzles and interactions. And after a couple hours of hard work, ta-da! All my hard work for something that looks exactly the same. Yeah, so worth it. Now here's the games side by side, and can you even tell them apart? Well, anyways, let's try and export this so I can share it with a bunch of people and get some good feedback to carry my progress later on. While I'm trying to export, heck, why not build a mobile build and try and see how good it feels? I'll set up touch controllers and all that jazz, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, I just got this running on my phone. Ignore the debug screens, but it just feels great. Like, the controls are just so intuitive, and mobile is definitely going to be a big priority for me moving on. I don't know, it just plays well. I'm super happy with this. So I got all of the builds working great, and it went surprisingly good. Like, only took a couple of builds, and I know, crazy. Well, let's send this out to a bunch of people and see what they think. Oh. They love it. Oh. They're stuck. It's completely broken.